I'm going to begin with a matter that is of serious importance for Jamaicans because it's life. Water is life. And the drought in the country is beginning to take its toll on how we go about our businesses, how we manage our houses, our homes, because these things are not appreciated until we lose them, until you turn on the tap to take a shower and you say, but wait, the water not there, or the water pressure too low. Yeah? It is then you really appreciate that for so many of us, we take these things for granted that you turn on the tap, the water will flow until none is flowing or it's dripping and you want a shower. The time hot. You have had a long day at the office. You come home and you want a shower. So the National Water Commission is under pressure this morning because the inflows to its systems across the island have been drastically reduced because of the drought. Most of the island not receiving the usual amounts of rain. And sadly, we as a country over the years have not paid enough attention to what the Homeless Administration is calling water resilience. Yeah? We're just beginning to pay attention to it. That listen, we can't continue to have this problem year after year in the 21st century when there are things we can do and should be doing. Yeah? So the National Water Commission is reporting that it has to be closely monitoring the impact of the drought on its supply systems to the Mona Reservoir and the Hope Treatment Facility. Yeah? And they have imposed water restrictions. And before you start calling us, I'm going to give you the areas affected so that you can at least have the information, yeah, to plan your life. If you're going to wipe up or you're going to take a bath, you may not be able to take a shower, yeah, but at least you have the information and you have to tell every member of the household now, please be careful with how you use the water, yeah? Can't waste it. Well, according to the NWC, the severe dry conditions have rendered some of their facilities incapable of supplying you with the volume of water that you had become accustomed to. Yeah? It is saying that some of its facilities in several parishes, and I'm going to name the parishes for you, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, rural St. Andrew, and St. Thomas, are experiencing declining inflows from surface water sources, resulting in reduced production capacity. Some systems, listen to this, are producing water between 60% or 20% to 60% of their normal capacity. Yeah? And to manage the distribution of water, it says it has had to make several operational adjustments. Yeah? These include they now regulate supply schedules in the affected areas. They interconnect some pipeline networks. They are doing more timely repairs of leaks. They are using trucked water, yeah, where they can. So that's what they have to be doing. I hear the corporate relations manager, Mr. Williams, this morning telling George and Turner that they're under pressure, their staff, to keep up with the restricted schedules because people are living by those schedules. And when you tell people that they're going to get water between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., they're planning their lives around it. And when comes 6 o'clock, 10 past 6, the water not come back, them get mad. Yes? Now, they have also, that's the NWC, have also provided a detailed breakdown of the affected facilities by parish. So listen carefully. In St. Anne, if you live in these areas, yeah, you're going to be experiencing reduced water supply. Content in St. Anne, Dawson Town, Fort George, Mount Zion, Mackney, New Ground, Avis Field, Shaw Park, Breadnut Hill, New Hope, Blackstone Edge. That's how they pronounce it. Blackstone Edge? I'm not sure. Higgintown, Seville. Those are the areas in St. Anne. If you live in those areas, you are being affected. In Portland, the areas affected are Packy River, Turtle Crawl, Windsor Forest, Belvedere, Craig Mill, Long Bay, and Haining. In St. Mary, Fellowship Hall, Sand Hill, Huntstown, Rock Spring, Bonnygate, Anata Bay. In St. Andrew, Rose Hill, Craig Hill, Pulper Spring, Rock Hall, Bucky Plain. In St. Thomas, Spring Gardens, Erie Castle, Needham Pen, Wilmington, and Davis Mountain. Yeah? And the NWC says they will be notifying you if there are any changes to their schedules, and they are encouraging in the meantime to conserve on the use of water. Yeah? Conserve. Yeah? And we have a report from Shaloy Michael on the picture across the country. Here is Shaloy.
On Monday, water conservation measures were imposed across the sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. This amid drought conditions which are expected to linger until October. The water supply regulations were implemented for those served by the Mona and Hope treatment facilities. The NWC says those who rely on the Constant Spring network will be affected on Wednesday. But the Commission says water systems across several parishes are now being impacted by dry weather. It says facilities in St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas are faced with declining inflows at surface water sources. The NWC noted that some systems are producing water between 60 and 20% of normal capacity. It says 13 systems have been impacted in St. Anne, while 7 were affected in Portland. 5 systems are facing reduced capacity in both St. Thomas and St. Andrew. In St. Mary, the NWC says 6 of its water systems are seeing lower water inflows. The NWC says it has implemented regulated supply schedules in some affected areas, interconnection of some pipeline networks, timely leak repairs, and trucked water deliveries. The Commission says it will continue monitoring the situation and adjusting operations accordingly. Meanwhile, customers are being urged to adopt water conservation habits and ensure proper water storage during the dry period. Shaloy Michael for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Shaloy. So you have a picture now, things getting grim. So conserve on the use of water. Some areas are still getting some rain, Yeah, some parts of the country still getting some rain, but we're simply not getting enough. Yeah, to prevent the need for the conservation and the restrictions that we are experiencing now. I see where the police are reporting that they have arrested and charged the People's National Party's caretaker for West St. Thomas, Hubert Williams. We're going to have more on that after the break. Want to say a special shout out to someone watching. He says it's a Dwight Bonner. Good morning, Sir Cliff. Watching from Larchmont, New York. Blessings. Yeah. Tell me where you're watching us from. Yeah? And let me shout out to you. Yeah, Dwight Bonner, watching us on our nationwide YouTube channel, Nationwide 90 FM Live. If you tell me where you're watching us from, I'll give a special shout out to you. Yeah? And I know we have thousands of people watching us from all over the world. North America, Africa, Europe, Asia. Yes. We're large. Anyway, so the PNP caretaker for West St. Thomas, Mr. Hubert Williams, has found himself in trouble with the police. He has been charged with assault and obstruction following an alleged altercation with the police in Danvers Pen last Friday. Williams, a councillor for the White Horses Division, is set to appear in the St. Thomas Parish Court on August 13. He's charged jointly with 3 PNP activists in connection with the incident. Councillor Williams is also a former mayor of Morant Bay. He was reportedly served with 2 summonses on Monday. A video seen by Nationwide shows Councillor William among a group of people, including at least 2 policemen, during what appears to be a heated exchange. In the footage, Councillor Williams and others can be heard shouting at the police. The charges reportedly stem from this confrontation, which followed claims that a mentally ill man had been assaulted by members of the JCF. In a subsequent TikTok live, Councillor Williams criticized the police, saying that they need to be restrained in how they interact with people of unsound mind.
My attorney told me this morning I will be summoned to attend court for it. So even if the residents them try to make the police them know that these people have mental challenges, they might be prosecuted for it. So we have to really look at how policing work done and look at it. I'm an elected councillor, former mayor, and at the same time, they want to summon me to go to court. So what the ordinary man going to do? There's no hope for the ordinary citizen of this land. I'm not one of the person to be diplomatic about this thing. I don't wish to be. I'm going to be candid. The police have to really go back and do some training. They have to reflect on them action. They have to remember, say, when a life is taken, even if you change your mind the next minute, you can't restore life.
That's Councillor Hubert Williams of the White Horses Division in West St. Thomas. He's also the People's National Party's prospective candidate for the next general elections. In other police-related news, the police say they are searching for 5 men in connection with the recent stoning of JUTC buses. You'll recall that a teenager has been taken into custody in connection with one of the incidents. He remains in police custody. At least 8 of the JUTC buses, new buses, were vandalized. The majority of the incidents occurred in the vicinity of Marvelly, Drewsland, and Headley Avenue in St. Andrew. The police, keep staying with the police. The police are making a renewed call for the government to come to provide them with a complete health insurance coverage for all ranks of the force. A member of the Jamaica Police Federation, Corporal Tanisha Lewis, made the call at a funeral service for a colleague on Monday.
We have lost yet another member to illness. And I must ask again, how many times? How much more? This moment is more than a moment of grief. It's a moment of reckoning. Let me be clear that we are still renewing our call firmly and urgently for a 100% health insurance coverage for all members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
That is a member of the Federation, Corporal Tanisha Lewis, making that call. The deceased policewoman, Corporal Kenesha Allen, died in May after a long battle with ill health, right? She had served the force for more than 20 years. Corporal Lewis, who is also a veteran, says providing full health coverage is a bare minimum to honor the sacrifices made by members of the force.
The government of Jamaica, as our employer, must respond with the seriousness, the urgency, and the compassion that this issue demands. Our members give their lives in service. The least we must be guaranteed is adequate health care when illness comes. We will continue advocating for the hospital protocols to be observed that uphold our dignity and reflect the sacrifices we make. Too many of our officers spend time in waiting rooms in the hospitals than in our divisions and with our families. Too many are sent home without answers, and too many are forced to fight silent battles alone, afraid and unanswered.
Corporal Tanisha Lewis of the Police Federation making a case there for complete health insurance to members of the JCF. There's another story here that I want to bring to your attention. You know, a family is distraught this morning. Why? Their father and husband has just disappeared. The father and husband is a 36-year-old man, Andrew Hilton. Mr. Hilton has been reported missing since last Wednesday, July 16. He's from Campbell's Boulevard, off Waltham Park Road, I think Campbell's Boulevard is. He's an employee of the separate group of companies. And his wife, Kadisha, says she last spoke with him when they both left for work earlier that Wednesday.
So when work over now, I go for the baby. Because him tell me already, so I collect the baby. So I go for the baby, and when I come home now, in the after 6, I call him, tell him, so I pick up the baby, and I not get him. So it a ring. That's a ring straight. And Mary say, anyways, I not pay no mind, I do them I do. So when I realize I see 10 o'clock pass, I still not, 11 o'clock, still not, because probably gone out, with him gone have a drink or so. And would have come in or whatever. So I leave all the grill open the night because I never did know say him never ever come back. So I wake up in the 1 o'clock and I realize say him not there. I still call the phone and ring, nothing.
Kadisha Hilton. Andrew, her husband, was last seen wearing a blue t-shirt, a pair of blue jeans and brown shoes. Mrs. Hilton is hoping for her husband's safe return.
I went to the police and I made a file a missing report. You know, honestly, I went there the Thursday and I filed the report, but I didn't sign the paper the Thursday. You know, because I was really hoping that somebody didn't hear from him. So I had to went back there the Friday and to officially sign the paper because I never hear from him. Yesterday my daughter said to me that, Mommy, I don't want my little brother to grow an unknown father. I am hoping, I am praying, I am just trusting God because everything is out of our hands now. It is in the hands of God now. I'm just trusting that He will come through for the family.
Kadisha Hilton, the wife of missing Andrew Hilton. And you can understand the pain that she's suffering. And the members of that house is suffering, yeah? If you have any information on the whereabouts of Andrew Hilton, yeah, you can contact the Halfway Tree Police at 876-926-8184. That's 926-8184. The 119 police emergency number, or your nearest police station. Yeah? We're going to turn to another story that the world is now beginning to turn some attention to, and that is the mass starvation and killing of people in the Gaza Strip. Literally hundreds of Palestinian women, men, children have been killed in their search for food, medicine, basics such as water. Well, the BBC is reporting this morning that the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says 10 people have died of malnutrition within the last 24 hours. And more than 100 aid organizations across the world are now drawing attention to the humanitarian disaster that's been unfolding in Gaza for some time, and a world that has largely been muted about the killing and what's been happening to the Palestinians. On Tuesday this week, 28 countries issued a joint statement calling on Israel to immediately end the war in Gaza, condemning what they describe as a drip feeding of aid and inhumane killing of civilians trying to get food. More in this report from the BBC.
More than 100 aid agencies have issued a joint statement warning that mass starvation is spreading across the Gaza Strip, despite Israeli denials. The signatories include major organisations such as Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children and Oxfam. The Hamas-run health ministry said more than 30 people have died from malnutrition in the past 3 days. Israel has acknowledged the drop in the amount of aid reaching Palestinians, but insisted they were seeing no signs of famine. Meanwhile, Israel has been continuing its military offensive. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces said they had struck approximately 120 terror targets across the Strip. Gaza's Hamas-run civil defense says at least 17 Palestinians have been killed in strikes since early on Wednesday morning. Well, let's speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Yolande Knell. Now, this is a warning that we've been hearing for some time, Yolande, but now aid agencies are saying starvation is occurring.
That's right. And they're talking about how, with supplies now totally depleted, even their own colleagues, humanitarian organisations and their partners are wasting away, they say, before their eyes. This comes after we've had journalists talking about how their freelance colleagues on the ground are no longer able to work. And we've had, of course, that joint statement by nearly 30 countries earlier in the week, including many of Israel's closest allies, really complaining about the drip feeding of aid with the current system that's going on in Gaza. But there was this figure that really stood out for me in this statement from the NGOs, and it says that on average there's only 28 lorry loads of aid being distributed within Gaza each day. And of course that is just a tiny drop in the ocean compared to the needs of about 2 million people.
What are the aid agencies asking for Israel to do?
So what they want is for all of the land crossings into Gaza to be opened up. They want to have a full flow, a surge going in of clean water, of food, of shelters, and importantly fuel as well, because that is, of course, part of the distribution effort. They need fuel to get around to key establishments, the desalination plants, to hospitals, but also for the lorries to take the aid to people.
That report from the BBC. And the UN Security Council is in session at this moment in New York, grappling with this issue. All right, that's where we're going to take a break, and we're going to return with your calls. You know the numbers, 876-630-937124 or 618-8255.
My hands were steady, my eyes were clear and bright.